You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Farmers. I am your host, Ben Eagle, and this is episode 303. Today, we're talking about a subject that is reshaping the future of agriculture, smart farming, which is all about the integration of digital tools and intelligent systems in farming practices. And we're focusing on the dairy sector today. But what does smart farming mean in practice? How are digital tools and intelligent systems changing the way that farmers manage dairy herds, monitor productivity, and build more sustainable businesses? Is it just about robots and sensors, or is it something more fundamental about how we use data to make better decisions? Well, to unpack all this, I'm joined by a full panel of guests. First up is Ben Hogg, who is UK and Ireland General Manager at Datamars Livestock, who brings a tech supplier's view on connectivity and insight-driven livestock management. Mike Jones is also with me. He's Dairy Technical Manager at the UK Agri-Tech Centre. He's going to be providing more of a bird's eye view of innovation and research in UK dairy. Patrick Morris-Eighton, our first farmer on the panel, from Cumbria, milking 900 predominantly pedigree Holsteins on a high input, high output system. And he's also a district representative for Arla. And last but definitely not least, Adam Atkinson, our manager from South Devon, based at Colston Farm, which is part of the Carswell Group. The business is based on milking 600 crossbred Kiwi cross cows in a grass-based spring block calving system. So between them, we've got different systems, different scales, different approaches, different expertise. So it should be a good discussion. Who shall we start with? I want you to first of all introduce yourselves very briefly and tell us, from your point of view, what smart farming means to you. Ben, can we start with you?
Hi, everybody. Ben Hogg, as Ben alluded to, so the GM for UK and Ireland for Datamars Livestock. I've worked with the business now for the last 2.5 years. Previously worked 10 years in the genetic sector with Cogent and Alta. Smart farming for me, I think, some of the words you alluded to earlier, Ben, integrations, data, productivity, the pressure that the likes of Paddy and Adam are under now from, the industry and the wider industry as a whole, I think have led the dairy industry to have to focus more on productivity, looking at data, how we can utilize it better, what we can do to, combat labor shortages, and things like that are really kind of where smart farming can play a key role. I think the biggest thing is being able to be sustainable and productive for the next 10, 20 years for those guys that are in it and want to stay in it. That's a key thing.
Yeah, so it's about being progressive, thinking of the long term. Mike, over to you. Brief intro from you, and what is smart farming to you?
Hello, I'm Mike Jones, Dairy Technical Manager for UK Agri-Tech, based at the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. A lifetime working with dairy cows, herd management, farm management, animal health monitoring. Smart farming is about using technology and data to optimise animal health and production and doing more from less, which is what we're all trying to do in life, I think.
That's good. Patrick, let's go over to you. Give us an insight into your farm, your system, and what smart farming is to you.
Yeah, good morning, Ben. So Patrick Morris-Eighton, Beckside Farm up here in the Lake District. We're just touching 900 cows now. High input, high output. Focus on optimum for cows, but also optimum for operator, and that's where for us the sort of smart farming and tech all comes into it. It allows us to focus on every individual cow, for whether it be their heats or health and such like. And it's a tool to help skilled herds people, to help everyone do a better job. just takes a bit of pressure off, because if you can utilize that info, especially now with machine learning and AI, not in the normal sense of cows, there's an awful lot to learn from it and to utilize and make things more efficient.
I was going to say, you've alluded to it there. We're going to, I always find whenever you talk about AI, all of a sudden now we've got another version to think about. It's always a challenge when you're talking in dairy. And let's finally go down to Devon with Adam.
Morning, everyone. Adam Atkinson, farm manager at Colston Farm. Brief background. So grew up dairy farming with my dad and went into it and been in various strands of the industry, whether it's intensive Holsteins or New Zealand style cows in New Zealand or in the breeding companies. And then currently been managing this herd or this farm for the last 8 years, which is 600 organic spring calving. And the challenge is the smart farming and technologies come into the system to help us cope with more scale. And it's an insurance policy for me that I've got technology watching those cows 24 hours a day, where we're running, there's 800 stock in this farm and there's 4 people in the team, where 10 years ago or 15 years, there would have been 7, 8, 9 people looking after those cows. So it's insurance policy, and it puts consistency in the job as well. And it means we can manage consistently every day, which we know dairy cows, we need consistency. And it also brings in a wider team of experts looking at us and the data on farm. So we've got, the people behind the collars looking at the data as well.
I think what's really interesting, it's coming out already. There's 2 points really. There's definitely your points you've been making there about people, with the points as well that Patrick was making about individuality, the individual nature of cattle management as well, and the potential for that. So those are 2 key things I think we'll draw out. Let's go big picture though. And Mike, I'm going to go back to you. In terms of trends with all this, within dairy tech uptake, from with your hat on, what are you seeing at the moment?
Technology is a great aid to a really good stockman. It just helps them manage more cows than they would normally be able to cope with. And it's about getting, more for less, so to speak. Going forwards, camera technology is getting better and better and better. And we're going to see more technology, hardware technology, coming camera based, I would have said. Looking forwards even further, I think technology will be there to help develop extracting value out of slurry management, dewatering plants. And Patrick's got 900 cows. He's got a huge slurry store there to cope with that. If he went and put more cows on, if he could dewater the slurry, hopefully that wouldn't mean had to increase his concrete footprint.
Well, we'll go over to Ben in a bit, but Patrick, do you want to come back on that, with sort of in terms of future of slurry management?
I like the idea with the cameras. Personally, I think that's going to become a big thing, especially with individual cow facial recognition. In our system, when they're housed, it makes a lot of sense. They can be looked at by cameras all day, every day, pretty much. We've got 30-something cameras up around the farm for general safety and security anyway, so that would make sense to go into that system. And then on the slurry, I think dewatering and also nutrient stripping out of it, so you can really focus your nutrients on where needs it, so you're not overloading ground and things like that. And then with that, able to do more work with arable farmers that need that nutrient to balance it better.
Ben, big picture trends that you're seeing in terms of dairy tech?
Yeah, I think very similar to what Mike said, really. We're as a business looking at the camera technology, how we can kind of add on to what we're already doing with the tech that we have now. I think that's definitely a big need. I think as well, just more of a general adoption that this is where the future needs to be. I've worked in the sector in sales for the last 15 years, and, the adoption from the maturity now, I would argue, of the dairy sector, whether that be grass-based or more intense and housed, are really utilizing some form of tech, outside of the norm that you get within the parlor. And I think, that's going to only have benefit. And I think when you look, I think the big thing for me as well that would be interesting, and, there are companies out there doing it now, is looking at that, feed efficiency piece. How can we be more efficient with the feed that we're producing, with the grass as well, everything that we're doing, from a feed point of view, how can we be as productive as possible, with the pressure that comes from the outside, with carbon audits and all of the rest of the games that, currently Paddy and Adam are having to kind of go through to, produce milk.
And Adam, is there anything in particular that you have your eyes on in terms of investment at the moment, with all this in mind?
I think always looking really. It's all like you mentioned the word efficiency a lot. It's all about efficiency. It's producing what we produce well and easier and as easy as possible and consistently. So yeah, always like things like AI grass measuring, like things like that. We're doing a bit of that now to help us, just save time, and it's another set of eyes as well. And it doesn't take away the fact that I'll go around the farm once or twice a week anyhow, but I've got another system helping me. So yeah, always open to anything that's going to help and make the boat go faster, really.
I mean, Ben, is there anything on the horizon that particularly excites you? And that could be automation, the AI, genetics, sustainability, any of those, really?
I think, it will be interesting to see what AI can do within the ag space. I guess it's probably one of the trickier, maybe businesses or industries, that, to be able to develop AI to kind of work in tangent with, not only the farm, but also the cows. And I think that's quite an exciting space to see where that can be taken to. I think really we've spoken about a load of things, on the call now in regards to feed or slurry or, genetics. I think, the big thing is that understanding and that adoption from farm, but also having the right companies out there, ourselves included, to be able to offer, that comprehensive service to, the likes of Paddy and Adam, and be able to show that, return on investment and that service behind it. One of the big things Adam said obviously was around people behind the scenes, making sure that the cows are being monitored just as much as you guys are on the ground. And I think, the big thing, I think the challenge for the industry now is that the space is moving so fast. The change in tech adoption in the last 5 years is probably greater than it's been in the last, probably hundreds, of years in terms of the shift. So, for Mike and for ourselves, we've got to be ahead of that. And that's an exciting challenge, but certainly a challenge to do, so we can still be at the forefront of what, the industry needs.
I mean, Patrick and Adam, I'm really interested in particular on this artificial intelligence piece in terms of, I mean, Adam, you've already mentioned the potential benefits of monitoring, staff potential as well. But where do you see, on a practical basis, where do you see the real potential next steps, practical applications on your farms for AI in terms of artificial intelligence? Paddy, you first.
I think what I was saying with the cameras side, when that becomes possible, again, it's another tool to pick up slight changes in behavior quicker. Like the tags are very good, because we use the Datamars tags. They're very good at picking up small changes, but that will always keep improving. And with cameras, you can see other things. You can link it all together with the data off the tags to then sort of make a assumption of what it is, to then go and have a look, and you have an idea what you're looking for before you're seeing the animal. I think that'll be really good. And also it helps when you're with vets now. Like, our vets are exceptionally good, but they are an hour and 10 minutes away. If they know or have an idea what they're coming to, if it's something that we haven't seen before or we're not sure, it definitely helps in that regard. Yeah, I think that's where most of it for us on the specific cow side. There will be the stuff with the genetics, with mating programs and all that side of it. We'll just keep getting better and better to match the right cow with the right bull. But that again that'll come as things just keep improving going forward. But we're using quite a lot of Chat GPT now. GPT. Okay. We're finding it quite useful, just for everything business side with the dairy now, running different ideas through it. Yes, you've got to go back and check it. You've got to go and discuss it with people who actually know certain ins and outs, but it gives you a steer on certain things, which is quite useful very quickly.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day, actually, where they were talking about matching the farm monitoring software with ChatGPT, which I think is really interesting. So sort of imagining a system where you could actually get up in the morning the whole farm be monitored. You then literally just type into ChatGPT, and it can give you. It's almost like how's the evening been, and it can give you straight away. It can point to individual cows or individual parts of the shed or whatever it is. So I think real potential there. Adam, your thoughts?
At dairy farmers, we've always adopted technology. Technology's always moved fast. And I think it's obviously speed like a lot more gone in the last few years, but there's so much data now. It's the next stage is what we do with all this data and like working out, with the breeding programs, the genetics that's going on, and trying to like for my system, trying to improve that block calving, the type block. So I see the next stage is that data crunching and going, right, these cows are the ones profitable for you, and these are the ones you want in your system, and these ones are just robbing your business. And I think that's the next stage. And I think, that's the whole new world of interpreting data to put it into on-farm management. Where I know we're getting lots of information at us with all the monitoring. So it's the next stage. I think there's so much more potential in what we can do with that data.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, really interested in your thoughts on that in terms of how farmers can use data more effectively. Because there is a lot, as Adam says, that is now collected.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is a trend with, cow side hardware, at monitoring cows with activity monitors and everything. There is a trend now where they're becoming more diagnostic tools rather than just flagging up. You've got 5 cows in heat, or you've got 5 cows that are a lower rumination. It will actually come up with, number 3 could have be a suspect mastitis case rather than a DA. And I think we're going to see more of that, more focused, rather than sending the data on every animal to the herdsman. It'll be, you need to look at these 6 cows because number 3's a suspect mastitis. Number 5, she could be lame. And it's just, making everybody more efficient in their time management.
Yeah, which, Paddy, that's going straight back to what you were saying right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that individual basis for each cow.
Let's move on to sort of, I suppose, barriers to adoption. So this could be cost, complexity, connectivity, mindset. Ben, you must, I mean, you have these conversations a lot with farmers and wider industry. So where do you see the main barriers at the moment?
I think now it would be those farms that, with everything that's going on in the wider world, are not sure whether they're in it for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think that's the biggest barrier that we're seeing now to adopting some of this kit, because as we know, the return on investment is quick and it's great, but it is obviously quite expensive in the outlay in most examples. So I think 5 years ago, when, if I was having that conversation, it would have been more led to actually being able to understand the benefits that it's bringing in pounds and pence. It's something that, if I sell you a system today for £30,000, I can't necessarily show you in 6 months that you'll have an extra 30,000 in your bank account. But it's little things like, less days open, high, more consistent, higher peak yield, all the health benefits you get, less cases of mastitis and recurrent, or, picking them up earlier so they don't become a clinical case. Those are the kind of things that you can show with tech and monitoring devices, especially. And I think it's trying to understand that. And I think that's something that us as an industry, and, me and Mike in our previous roles together, were constantly trying to show that real value to the likes of Paddy and Adam, to be able to say that, this is what it will do for you. Within 12, 18 months, we expect this system to have paid for itself. And that was kind of always the bigger challenge in terms of showing calculators and getting that buy-in. But like I said, I think now, the adoption is definitely there across the sector, with the people that are going to be committed to being in the industry for the foreseeable future.
Mike, do you think you're winning more minds now in terms of encouraging investment?
I think farmers are more open to using technology than ever before. As a younger generation coming through that have grown up with a smartphone in their hand and they're not scared to use it. And, the older generation, well, we're all slowly moving on, letting the younger people have more of a go. But cost is always going to be the big thing, stumbling block at the start. If there's no return on investment, no matter how good the technology is, it's not going to get used. There always got to be that return on investment and ease of use. Everything's got to be easy, straightforward, common sense, basically. And then Adam touched on it earlier, backup and support, another pair of eyes there to help talk to get the best out of the investment, financial investment the farmer's done. And we've looked at various 5G projects at the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. Connectivity in most parts of the UK is pretty good. When I was working with Ben at Cogen, you'd be in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, somewhere in a really remote location, but you'd have 4G on your phone. Where did that come from? Yet there are other places, with a large population close by where there's just too many people there connecting to the 4G network, and it's all a bit slow.
It's just, so much in that answer, Mike. Thanks for that. Especially in the return on investment piece and the ease of use. Paddy and Adam, interested in, I suppose, particular areas to invest in. What are you more likely to and less likely to invest in at the moment based on that ROI and ease of use? Adam?
I think ease of use is a massive thing because it's very easy to buy a system and we don't use it fully, and then we don't see the return on investment. And that's quite easy. A lot of things you do, like, and I'm in my age, you need someone teaching it. So I think the install and the backup is the massive thing to me, and making sure that happens, and the same with the team as well. So, because otherwise, when it comes to replace it, you'd be like, "Well, I didn't use it half as much as I did, wanted to, or could." So, I think that's the key to the support and the efficient and the ease of use. Regards my eye on other investments, things like geofencing really excites me. I mean, that ability to set fences without actually physically going and putting fences out there, that's gonna be a massive time saver and efficiency of feeding cows. Because one thing I think we're learning in the grass-based system, we're putting monitors on. They're a lot like the Holstein than we thought. Do you know what I mean? You'd have to transition the cow properly. Do you know what I mean? Diet changes do affect them and stuff. So I think there's a lot more. We'll get a lot more technical in our feeding and our management as well because of the information we're getting. So anything to help that, really.
Paddy?
Yeah, ease of use is the most important thing on all of it. Our longest Surly employee's been here 46 years now. He's just stepped back from senior herds person role, just as we've gone up in numbers again. But he can still use most of the tech on farm. It's something we are very determined it has to be usable by everyone if needed. And the things that we're looking at is a lot around slurry and nutrients, I would say, at the minute, whether it be AD or nutrient stripping, such like, which also help with being more energy sustainable, which I know is a bit of a fluffy word at the minute. But we already have a hydroelectric scheme, which is pretty good. It runs on rainfall, which here in the Lake District we get a lot of it. But there is certain times where it drops below our usage, so AD plant will probably become a good option there. But again, it's the technology to get the best out of that. And then on the cow side, it's utilizing all the data that we're getting better, linking it all together. Like Adam was saying earlier, the amount of data we're all getting, it's making sure we're not wasting it and we can utilize it to the best effect, because you can spend hours and hours and hours analyzing data and get nowhere if you're not looking at the right things and you're focusing on the wrong part. And that's where I come back to the AI. I think really coming into it is where it can link it all together and tell you pretty much which bits you need to look at and focus on maybe, but it still doesn't take away the human element of doing that as well.
Just on the point of support available, whether it's financial advice, training, Mike, can you just give us an overview, sort of what is available? What advice would you give?
Well, come and visit the Southwest Dairy Development Centre. We've got all sorts of technologies, both what is presently commercially available and some interesting stuff that's under development from various companies, UK-based companies, going forwards, and just ask questions to everybody, really. UK Dairy Tech Day in February, that is a fantastic event that, farmers can go along, talk to companies, find out what's actually on the market there, and pick and choose, really. There's a whole box of chocolates out there, and there's too many stuff out there, really, to be quite honest with you, to say, yes, that's the one to go with, because none of these things that are on the market would work if they didn't work. And it is working out what's best for you. What's the return on investment? How easy is it to use? What is the backup and support? In my previous role on animal health technology for Kojin, it was all about the education of the end user. And, that is so important in a package that you're going to buy on a farm. There are various grants available now to help financially support the purchase of these things. But, there's still an awful lot of work needs to be done on AD plants and the viability of them, what size herds, what sort of manure are you putting into them. We've had various companies that we've talked to, had schemes that we put in front of us, and I'm sat there in a meeting just working out the figures. And when you're sort of looking at it, well, I'm already at £1 million we've got to spend, and I can't see how I can get half of that back. So, yeah, it's never an easy conundrum being the first to do something.
Absolutely. It's never easy being a pioneer. Ben, anything to add?
I think just to kind of reiterate the point around the backup service, something that we've tried to invest in the business. I think the biggest impact you can have, positively or negatively, which obviously is the worst case scenario, is most of the systems out there are fairly consistent in terms of their quality. There's not a huge amount of difference, especially on the monitoring side. There are little USPs that some have over others, but very, on the whole, the heat and the health is pretty consistent. The big advantage that a company will have is the people that they have, providing that service, providing the backup support. And I think it's that's where a system will fall down or be successful. And it won't actually be the system's fault. It will be the people utilizing the data, whether that be the farmer because he's not had the right education, or it will be us as a business that haven't supported that customer properly. And then, the system doesn't get to show its full potential to that customer. So I think that's hugely important for every company. And that's where I think, certainly us as well, we can all improve in that sector.
Yeah, so often it comes back down to the people. We're going to start to round it up, but I'm going to ask you all one last question, interested in your thoughts on this. And that is, what is one innovation that you could think that you think could have the biggest impact for dairy farmers over the next decade? Paddy, let's start with you.
I come back to AI. I think it is that pulling all that data together and allowing a good, efficient use of time for each individual operator to then get the most out of it. I think it was Michael said that it's complex. One of the most complex systems for AI to do is ag and dairy. As it learns and builds that, I think that's where the game changer comes for us. If you're willing to adopt it and really utilize it to the most effect, I think the results could be colossal.
Mike?
Going forwards, we're going to be doing more from less. It's about marginal gains, extracting nutrients, the added value out of slurry, dewatering it. That has a huge knock-on effect to the whole farming enterprise in not having to spend more capital on concrete. Might give you a product you could sell that's in a dried pelleted form to a garden centre on manure. It's just managing the energy coming out of it. I have been quoted in the past as saying that in the future dairy farmers will become energy producers. The next we'll be walking around as rich arrows maybe in 20 years' time. And milk production will be the break-even side of the business, but the profitable side will be producing energy.
So there's a debate in itself. Adam, over to you.
I think it's linking it all a bit more together. So like the heat detection and the milk recording data says she's, there's milk recording data says she's low in energy, and that reflects in the heat detection system. So there's a lot of systems out there, but it needs to be a bit more integrated with one, because they're all telling us similar information. I think that's for me, that would help. And then, like I said, things like the geofencing coming in, anything to make us more resilient and robust to do what we do now, but easier. I think that's key.
And Ben, a final word for you in terms of an innovation that could have the biggest impact for dairy farmers.
I think other than the ones that have been mentioned, I think probably the enhancement of the technology on the camera side. I think I think that's probably a piece of kit that we could have fairly flexible and endless possibilities with. When you look at kind of body condition score, lameness, visual detection, obviously for kind of linking into draft gates, heat detection, health monitoring, all those things. I think it could have a really big impact. It's something that there's been done quite a lot in the swine industry, and when you kind of look at the tech sort of space with them, they are probably far ahead of where the dairy sector is for sure. And we've got a lot of room to grow, but I think that's a great, exciting, positive thing really that we have got. We've made huge strides in the last 10, 20, 30 years. And I think we're only really scratching the surface now of what's going to be possible in the industry in terms of trying to improve, productivity and efficiency. So I think that would be a big help for the farmers and for us as businesses to be able to help pull it all together, hopefully.
Yeah, it's interesting. You pick up on pigs there. We're talking about dairy today, but if you look at pigs, poultry, horticulture as well, I mean, every sector is moving forward in this regard, and it's a topic that we will definitely return to again. It's not going anywhere, but we're going to leave it there for today. A massive thank you to my guests today, Ben Hogg, Mike Jones, Patrick Morris-Iton, and Adam Atkinson. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Thank you also for listening. If you don't already subscribe to the show and you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening and pass it on to a fellow farmer or someone else who you think might be interested. Next time, I'll be joined by the current Deputy President of the NFU, David Exwood, to talk about his farming life and journey, as well as thoughts on various current farming issues. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and thank you very much for listening.